Hi, Sai, Karate Illuminati, this is Noah, and today I wanted to address a relatively controversial topic in the martial arts world, and one that is an incredibly common question that you'll find all over the internet, and that is, what martial art is best for self-defense? Now, with as common as that question is, you would expect that by now we'd have come up with a pretty universally accepted answer, but that hasn't been the case. There are some pretty reliable responses that you'll find, such as to check out things like Krav Maga or Agana, which were combative systems for the military adapted for self-defense, or combat sports such as mixed martial arts, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, or Muay Thai. And you'll find traditional martial artists who practice karate styles or kung fu styles who will point out that their martial arts were developed for self-defense primarily. And all of those answers can be good answers, but it's important to note that the real answer to what the best martial art is for self-defense is actually more about how you train and how often you train than what you train. You see, the vast majority of self-defense really isn't about the fighting skills. Instead, it's about things like situational awareness, threat assessment, verbal de-escalation, escape and evasion, as well as trying to learn about and understand how your body physically reacts to self-defense situations, as well as learning about the legal ramifications of self-defense and what you should do in the aftermath of a self-defense situation. These are not sexy topics, they're not fun things to learn about and fun things to practice. They can be very stressful, they can be very dry, but they're incredibly important to an effective self-defense program. And not all martial arts schools are going to incorporate those things into their training. So even if the physical skills that they're teaching you are effective, that doesn't really mean that they're preparing you entirely for self-defense. Now, that doesn't mean that the physical fighting skills you learn don't matter, because they absolutely do. It's just that they come after all those other things. So your focus in your training has to be starting with the full context of self-defense before you get into the physical skills. And when you do get into the physical skills, it is important that they cover certain areas. For example, if you're learning a martial art for self-defense purposes and they don't include anything about dealing with fighting on the ground, then you are missing a very, very important aspect of combative engagement, because you don't always get to decide where the fight is going to happen. And if it ends up on the ground, you need to be able to deal with that situation and escape. You also need to be able to strike effectively. You need to be able to grapple and control an opponent effectively, know how they can control your body and how to escape that. Because these things are very chaotic, you have to be prepared for all situations. Additionally, your training should incorporate things like dealing with weapons or dealing with multiple attackers, because those things can really make a difference in the entire situation that you're dealing with. And if you've never trained for those things, it can be really hard to shift gears into dealing with those threats, because they have some specific differences from one-on-one fighting that you won't be prepared for. Now, you also have to understand that learning those physical skills is going to be something that has to go through a progression from compliant drills to semi-compliant exercises to semi-resistant exercises to finally fully or nearly fully resistant exercises. And that can be in the form of various kinds of sparring, or it can be more in the form of self-defense scenario drills. The idea is that you start with very simple situations, attack and response, for example, so that you have an opening to practice against. Then you start adding variations, you start adding some resistance. The opponent can try to escape, the opponent can try to block, they can attack you different ways. You start incorporating chaos by having them attack from different positions, have different people in a group attack at random, change the types of attacks, and so on. And you add resistance progressively so that you build up a tolerance for the stress that you're being put under, and you are able to slowly work yourself into that scarier situation of more full contact sparring. And a big key to doing all this is that you also really have to enjoy it. Otherwise, you're not going to train it enough, and that's going to be a huge downfall as well. Of course, any training is better than no training, but if you're able to train in something consistently, you're going to have a lot more confidence in using that martial art. So in the end, what is the best martial art for self-defense? It's the one that you practice regularly, that covers all the soft skills and non-physical violence aspects of self-defense, that covers the physical aspects in a realistic and effective way, and that you have pressure tested and made sure you can make work under stress. I know that's not a simple, easy answer, but it is the best answer that you can find with regard to this topic, in my opinion.